Hi and welcome to the Purpose Podcast, the show that helps you to discover your purpose and release equity within. My name is Andre Spence, the Purpose Coach, and I speak, I coach, and I run events. But life wasn't always so purposeful. Starting out my career on a reality show called Sweet 16, scouring through multiple different types of jobs within the creative and entertainment field, the fact is I always ended up feeling fear, frustration, and failure. But it was my mentors that helped me navigate and discover my purpose. It's my hope through these sit-downs with my influential friends and industry leaders that this podcast will serve as your mentor and help you discover your purpose and release equity within. So in the building, we have AJI. Give him a round of applause. Give yourself a round of applause. We only got 2 people inside here, yeah? All right. Cool. So AJI is a social entrepreneur, the founder of clothing brand MIA London, and CEO of a talent agency. What's it called?
MIA Marketplace.
Guan, a former finance lawyer. Are you that? AJI currently also acts as a legal consultant for
Startup.
AJI was named as one of the UK's top 8 future BAME, which is Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic leaders by the government.
All parties political group on ethnicity and diversity.
Come on. Nominated for the Diversity Legal Awards, Rising Star Entrepreneurship Award, and listed as one of the UK's top 100 creative changemakers in the UK. Give him another round of applause. Let's go. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. Glad to be here.
Honestly, it's such an honour to actually have you here, especially when you just had to ask me what's the purpose of this podcast. So the purpose of this podcast in the very beginning is just to find out your story. Can you go from when you were born and then we just go up to where we are today? I'm going to give you
sure. So
2 minutes for that.
Cool. So I was born in Nigeria.
Wow, okay.
A lot of people don't know that.
You speak really British.
Yeah, I moved when I was very young. So I moved when I was like 2, 3. Lived in a few kind of different places in the UK from the point in which I arrived in London. Eventually we settled in Leicester. So I spent most of my childhood in Leicester.
Yeah.
Had family in London, so we'd kind of spend some time here as well. Probably moved back down to London when I was 18 for university. So I attended Queen Mary University.
That's a good uni.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
How old are you now?
27.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so studied law, did straight law. I always knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, but I also had plans.
So it wasn't just because, in our culture, it's engineer,
doctor, lawyer.
Yeah,
accountant. Yeah, no. So my grandfather was a lawyer. He was a judge. So wow. I think that was one of the reasons why it was always like quite a realistic career choice for me.
You knew it was in your blood.
Literally, and like we literally share a name. So
wow.
Yeah, so it was always like one of the choices for me. But I also knew that it was never going to be like the end game or end goal. But I knew that it would kind of open doors to allow me to do other things that I might want to do. So did law. Was fortunate enough when I was in second year to get onto a training contract for after uni, at quite a good firm. So finished university, got my 2-1, went to law school to get my like practical qualifications. Went on to start my training contracts. During my training contract, I was fortunate enough to spend 6 months in South Africa on secondment at the Johannesburg office. Secondment. So it's basically when you spend time in either an office internationally or an office, just like an office away from wherever you work normally. So whether it's a different office of your company or a client. So in my case with the Johannesburg one, it was an office of my actual firm just abroad. So spent 6 months there. What year was that? That was 2016.
Yeah.
So it was mainly like cross-border banking and project finance work. But whilst I was there, that was when I was like really, really exposed to people that were doing kind of like corporate jobs, but were also finding ways to express their creativity and to pursue entrepreneurial ventures and endeavors. So I'd always kind of done like business type stuff on the side, but I'd never taken it seriously enough as a career path. So, for example, whilst I was at uni, like first year of uni, I was like a club promoter. It kind of like allowed me to like pay most of my like living costs and stuff. I didn't pay to go in anywhere to like clubs or whatever. So it just kind of allowed me to turn my social outings into like entrepreneurial ventures. And then having that experience is one of the main ways in which I managed to get my training contract, because I managed to find a way to link that experience to finding work as a partner in a law firm, and they were really encouraged by that. So that was kind of like how like I properly got into like the entrepreneurial world. Whilst I was there, I met a tailor.
That's why I saw your stuff based in South Africa. I went to South Africa and I loved it. And I always said I wanted a clothing line. So I've just been a bit jealous. I'm just joking. Never jealous. Proud.
Thank you. Yeah, so I met a tailor there, and I had some like designs of my own for like suits and stuff, which I kind of took to him. And he just kind of found a way to bring them to life, essentially. So kind of got a few things made for myself, which I was using at work. And before I left South Africa, I kind of just took the idea to him to basically kind of go into kind of like partnership with him as a supplier, and kind of work on a collection that I could bring back to the UK. So that's exactly what I did. So we worked on a very like small capsule collection of tailored trousers, brought it back to the UK, did a few shoots, started getting the word out there. And that's kind of how like the whole MIA journey started. So about 3 months in, had the idea for MIA Marketplace, but I knew that for it to be successful, then a lot of planning would have to go into it. And at the time as well, there was a little bit of confusion over whether, at least for me, there was a little bit of like internal confusion over whether MIA Marketplace will be a whole separate company to MIA London, or whether there's a way to like blend the two. So
what's the difference? MIA
London is literally a clothing brand.
Yeah, and
MIA Marketplace is a talent agency and tech booking platform. But it's developed so much, and the idea has changed, and we've pivoted a lot since the initial inception of that idea. So came back to the UK, finished my training contract, qualified, and then got an offer from another firm to basically work as a derivatives finance lawyer. Again, it sounds so distant to what I'm doing now, but did that for a year. For me, the main reason for that is I knew that whilst I was still in corporate, I had to be doing or working in an area that would engage me intellectually from the get-go. So not somewhere that I would have to wait 3 to 5 years before they start giving me real work. So because it's quite a complex area, that area of finance for me was, as someone that had like medium-term plans to leave and do my own thing, it kind of made sense to do that. So
what was that? Sorry, could you say again? What was that? Guys, by the way, I write down notes as guest is speaking. So I just want to get all the notes down properly. So you said you got, what contract was that?
So I got an offer as a qualified derivatives associate.
What's that?
So derivatives is...
that sounded so...
What's
that?
Derivatives is an area of finance that it's a type of financial product that derives its value from something else. So you have a physical product, and then there's a whole secondary market that is based off physical assets, but not the actual assets themselves. So the whole thing is kind of like artificially created, but there's a market through which these financial products are traded. And it was actually one of the reasons for the financial crisis. So you had certain derivatives that were based off mortgages, and a lot of these mortgages, the actual underlying mortgage was in relation to homeowners that had really, really bad credit. So the derivatives themselves were rated like A star or A plus or AAA, whatever. And they weren't really looking into whatever they actually represented. So when the underlying asset, the home mortgage, wasn't able to be repaid, it then led to this kind of like run on the market where all these derivatives were now rendered worthless. So that was pretty much the financial crisis in a nutshell. So since then, there's a whole breadth of like law to ensure that that area is regulated properly. Because it was quite a new area and quite a complex area, there wasn't really much regulation in place before that. So hence why people like me are then able to get a job out of it. Anyway, so that's what I did for like a year.
He's just drinking water.
And all the time I was still running the clothing brand kind of on the side. And my whole thing was I would do it until I got to a point where I felt like the balancing act wasn't as manageable anymore. And I kind of said to myself, minimum 1 year, max 3 years. So fortunately, about a year in, I got an offer to join the first cohort of this new part-time master's course in entrepreneurship at Cambridge Business School. So that was kind of like what incentivized me to actually make that jump, because it meant that I could work on not only continuing with MI London, but be in kind of like a structured environment where I could then get MI Marketplace off the ground, and I could transition with structure in place instead of just leaving cold turkey. So that's exactly what I did. And pretty much within the first week of this course...
I need to ask you, so you got offered, it was at Cambridge, what did they offer you?
Just a place, so I'm doing a master's now, part-time.
Oh, nice. Well done. Give him a round of applause. Your family must be happy with that.
They were. That was so the reason why like I went for Cambridge was partly like family reasons, so they would like understand my decision. Partly because law itself is quite.
Who do you mean they will understand your decision?
So like my parents, I can like justify it to them, because I mean like Nigerian parents, they want to see like, they still want the accolades, they still want stuff that they can like brag about. So if I said I was leaving to go to like, no shade, but like Birkbeck, it would have been a more difficult conversation, even though the Birkbeck course is a really good course. So the Cambridge thing just kind of made sense on a number of different levels. And then even in respect of the legal profession itself, again, it's a university that's respected by quite an elitist like legal industry. So I could then explain to them, and people wouldn't look at me like, oh, why are you leaving a job that pays that well to go and pursue your own stuff? Like, it just kind of made sense for me.
I get you.
So literally, yeah, did that, and kind of like set in place a few different kind of like routes or ways of kind of financing myself from like a freelance perspective whilst I was doing that. So when I left, I had like a few like different things that I could like rely on to.
But you're not allowed to work when you're at Cambridge, isn't it? Is that correct?
Part-time.
You're allowed to work part-time?
As in, it's a part-time course.
Okay. No. Okay. Yeah,
it's a part-time course. And also, the course itself is quite different to most courses at Cambridge. So they center the course around an actual business. So the timeline of the course kind of like mirrors the timeline of a business. So in their kind of eyes, the best kind of scenario for this course, and just to reiterate, this was the first year ever that this course existed. So there wasn't really like a blueprint in place, but they're kind of like ideal scenarios. You come in with experience in the business world and some sort of like idea that they see as like solid enough for them to
invest in.
Not invest like financially.
Not I don't mean financially,
but like support
like
basically.
Support, yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened with MI Marketplace, and getting that feedback just kind of allowed us to make sure that things were done in the right way, and coupling that kind of support, that kind of advice and counsel with the learnings that I'd taken from MI London just meant that I was able to, me and my co-founders and my team, get MI Marketplace to a place in which it could kind of function quite well in what might seem like a relatively short period of time. So from the point at which we kind of like started building the team, that was like October 2018. We then finalized how we wanted to like go to market in January 2019 and incorporated the company then. We had our first pilot client in August and our first paid client in December, which was Afro Nation Ghana. So the progression is only because...
But in August you had first?
Pilot.
Yeah.
So Pilot Festival
Yeah.
client. And then Afro Nation Ghana in December.
And what did you do with Afro Nation?
So they basically booked an entire team of like local creatives in Ghana through us. So we did all of their content basically.
Nice.
So they booked like camera operators, drone operators.
And that's through the marketplace?
Through us, yeah. So all of the social media content you see on their socials, like we did that, or like our team did that, which was quite a big deal for us.
Yeah, fantastic. It's good.
Yeah, so...
I'm just trying to see how you're helping me.
We can chat.
Sound like dollar sign. Yeah, cool. So now, where are you now?
Okay, so now this is the first year where I've fully committed to this like entrepreneurial journey. So I think part of the reason why like I spent so long in Ghana, like I was just like I didn't want to like come back to reality. So
Just like everybody, but you lot were just annoying all of us.
Just there for ages, man. So literally came back, gave myself a couple of days, and then literally just like strategized and like planned my whole year.
Yeah.
Which I've not really had to do before because every other year either you've got
something in place, yeah.
Educational system or you've got work giving you that structure. This was the first year where it was like all me. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but at the same time exciting. So I kind of got like a plan in place now. Kind of know what we're looking to do, how I'm going to kind of like balance the things that I'm doing with the business stuff, how I'm going to balance those two businesses as well. And just kind of like how I want things to play out in an ideal world.
Nice.
But yeah.
So now, thank you so much. I was going to say give him a round of applause, but I do that. We're going to do it. Give him a round of applause again. So I want to go back into some of this stuff. You mentioned about that you was able, you when you was in South Africa, which was around 2016,
yeah,
you were exposed to people that were essentially working in the corporate world, but then they also had this whole entrepreneurial flair about life. So how much do you think how important do you think it is to be exposed to different cultures and environments in general? And yeah, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I think
does that help your journey?
I think it's really, I think the environments that you find yourself in and the people that you surround yourself with make a massive difference to how your journey plays out.
Yeah.
So even from the perspective of seeing other people around you that have done things and knowing that because they've done it, you may have a chance of doing it as well. If all you're surrounded by is kind of one type of person taking one type of path, then that may then limit you in what you see as possible to whatever they are doing. So going from this London environment where everybody is trainee lawyer, but deep down you could tell they're not completely satisfied, to somewhere where they're like trainee lawyers, but they're also doing things on the side. Like there were people that were like styling. There were people that, there was one of my friends had started this educational app. I had a friend that was kind of like designing clothes on the side. So like all of these little things just kind of like inspire you into thinking that and knowing that it's possible. So, and even like from the perspective of the kind of events and things that you go to and kind of how you spend your time outside of work or outside of like your immediate space, it just kind of like reinforces that message that those things may be possible. So I think it's absolutely essential to surround yourself with people like that. I would say that here in London, it does happen even in the corporate world. So, but not on a day-to-day basis. So you won't be in the office where you're able to openly speak about side hustles or things that you want to do. You have to keep all of that stuff for outside of like the working space. And that may then come down to the fact that because you're maybe a minority in those spaces, the amount of people that you feel that you can fully open up to anyway is limited. So, you then have to take yourself out of that environment and find other people like you doing similar things, but they won't necessarily be where you're working. They'll be somewhere else. So
again, now you're talking about the power of networking. The
power of networking, and also just the power of networking with the right people.
That's good. For where you want to be.
For where you want to be. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that being in an environment like that allows you to network in a passive way and not only have to rely on active networking to take you to where you want to be, or to surround yourself with people that are on the same kind of wavelength.
How you mentioned that when you was in university, you was a club promoter, and then you mentioned that it actually helped you. Was that actually helped you when you wanted to get a certain contract, correct? In working, and they looked at it and you was able to leverage that, right?
Yeah.
So the question I really got for you is, and there's an old adage that says, do not despise small beginnings. That evidently, compared to what you're doing now, is a small beginning. But what would you say to anybody that has a big goal and a big dream, and they basically essentially, it doesn't look like where they are? What would you say about their situation? And would you promote to them that it's a good place to be with a small beginning?
Absolutely.
Very long question, sorry.
Absolutely. So I think it just kind of like reinforces the fact that you have to start somewhere. You won't necessarily know how things are going to play out, but once you understand that every single small step that you take could be a step in a journey to something much greater, you understand the bigger picture, you understand how it plays a part in something that's greater than you and greater than what you're doing right now. And it just then kind of incentivizes you to keep going.
Amazing. And so you spoke about, obviously, a lot about your family. So that is a big deal. Because within our cultures, it's like, you know, what they say pretty much it kind of goes. And especially when you're from a line where you got the same name as your granddad and he's a judge. So they expect you to follow that pattern. And we can see within your story, you was able to interweave what they would like, but then you made sure you got what you wanted. How would you help another young person that is wanting to forge their own destiny and be able to be free from the expectations of their family?
Yeah, so I think, honestly, there's certain things that you may have to do for them first if you want to have their support to do other things. So I think that me having my qualification and having got to that point before I started to properly pursue other things means that they're then more willing to back me in the other things that I'm doing. It won't be an immediate process. Like, me and my mum and dad have like clashed a lot this year, but once they started to see results, then they started to really back it and believe.
Mike behind the camera, he's got a similar story. He had to study bioengineering, and now he's telling stories through content creation. So yeah, so basically fulfilling their wishes and their desires, but then doing your thing and making sure it produces results so that they can say, it's cool.
Exactly.
What do you believe your purpose is?
I think my purpose is to further or play my part in helping to further the African creative industries. That's what my purpose is. And even wider than that is to continue to open doors to those around me and those coming after me that are in similar spaces to the spaces that I'm in. So whether that's the stuff on the African creative industry side, or the fact that now, even though I'm not working day-to-day in law, I'm still pretty much daily like advising black students on how to get in to a profession that I've now kind of like left. And that's something that I'm going to be doing for life.
And why particularly black students?
Because there's a huge lack of not only representation, but support. It goes back to what I said before about support and having a network around you of people and peers that come from similar backgrounds to you, that understand what you're going through and that can help you on your journey. I think if I was in an environment where I wasn't the only junior black lawyer in my firm, then maybe my journey would have been different. Do you know what I mean? If I was somewhere where I didn't feel like I was kind of like fighting against a system that wasn't designed for me, and I was able to like express myself and do these other things that I was passionate about, whilst also being in those spaces and surrounded by other people doing similar things. Because a lot of the people that I know that are from similar backgrounds to me, they're also doing side things. But because there aren't enough others in the firm, then it still looks like what you're doing is outside the norm. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, that's probably the main reason why. And it's not only a representation thing, it's an inclusion thing as well. And making those firms see how important it is that we feel included in these spaces, not just to get us in, is one of kind of like my primary goals. And I think one of the first steps in that is ensuring that there's people like me who manage to get through the door in the first place that have that as a priority as well, and can also continue to spread that message of kind of furthering inclusivity, even if I'm not there myself.
Awesome. And you recently got saved and baptized. How does God play? Is that how God's play a role? How does God influence you now in the things you do?
So I'm going to take it back to what I said about structure. I think the only two constants that I've experienced since leaving full-time work have been fitness.
That's why he's eating grapes, guys. I've got all this chocolate, donuts, everything in here, crisp, everything. And he went for the grapes. Continue.
Yeah, so fitness and spirituality. And spirituality through my relationship with God, mainly. So I used to go to church, like, kind of here and there. I was like a lot of people where it was something I'd do if I could. But it wasn't a priority. It wasn't something that I would structure my week around. That completely changed in pretty much at the start of last year, where I just made that decision to just make God a priority, having structure, having God as like a constant. So now if I don't go to church, it's Easter. I've maybe missed church 3 times or something like that. Yeah. Whereas before it was like...
I've missed church bare times.
So I mean, yeah, even like I was in New York in September, and like I went out the night before, we got in like late, I still managed to find a local Catholic church. So it's become a priority, which it wasn't necessarily before. And I think that has played a huge part in just giving me the strength to just kind of keep going and like keep pushing and just believe that things will make sense and that things will play out as...
Walking by faith and not by sight.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's been a massive change. I mean, God has always played a huge part in my life. Going back to the family stuff. So my dad is Muslim. My mum is Catholic.
Okay.
So that can work one of 2 ways. Either you end up as a child that doesn't prioritize religion at all because you're confused, or you end up as like me, where you spend a lot of your time thinking about religion because you're just exposed to it all the time. So both my parents are like practicing their individual faiths. And I think kind of by default, you become more one than the other until you then get to a point at which you're able to kind of make a decision for yourself. So for me, it was definitely a journey, and it was pretty much from the age of like 14 that I was like, you know what, I see myself as Christian more than anything. But then it took like maybe 10 years until I started taking myself to church, and then another 2 years last year until I was like, you know what, now I'm ready to get baptized. And that's the reason I got baptized late, because I wasn't baptized as a child. So, yeah.
Awesome. We love this story. We love AJI. He's been amazing. Guys, it's this part where I tell you that you must subscribe. And you have to follow me at Andre Spence and Purpose Podcast. As well as my brother here. What's your @ online?
Yeah, so my @ on Instagram and Twitter at Jibola Josiah. So AJIBOLA JOSIAH. And then follow MIA London at MIAXLDN on all social media platforms. MIA Marketplace isn't on social media as such, but our tech platform will be soon. So our tech platform is called Uburu, UBUURU. So keep an eye out for it.
He hit the table for emphasis.
So you know.
Guys, make sure you go to the Patreon account as well. This stuff is not free. These lights, these cameras, everything costs money. So if you want to dip into your pocket and you want to take out 50p to out £500,000 or dollars, we'll be happy for that. Thank you so much. Until next time.